Have you ever noticed that no matter how hard you work, money always seems to leave you faster than you earn it? I used to be in that exact situation. Every month I'd wait for payday. Each time I'd promise myself this month I'll save. But then, a dinner out, a discounted item, a short trip, and everything went back to zero. It wasn't because I didn't try. It was because I didn't know how to think like the rich. The rich don't work harder than we do, they think differently. They don't spend to show off, they spend to build. They don't work for money, they make money work for them. And most importantly, they know when to spend, when to wait, and when to invest. I learned that money never leaves those who respect it. If you don't control your money, sooner or later, it will control you. If you don't command your money, it will command you. In today's video, I'll share 13 profound financial principles, the very things the rich practice every day to turn money into a loyal servant instead of a ruthless master. From how you think before spending, to how you invest, how you save, and even how you give everything begins with mindset. Stay until the end of the video, because principle number 11 will open a door most people never even know exists, a secret that could change your entire financial future. Principle number 1, think before you spend. I once told my students, one of the most important financial skills isn't earning money, it's thinking before you spend. When I was young, I thought earning more money was the answer to every problem. But then I realized the problem isn't how much you make, it's how you think before you spend. I once had a friend named David. Every time he got paid, he treated himself a fancy dinner, a new shirt, an expensive pair of shoes. He often said, "Jim, I've worked hard all month. Don't I deserve to enjoy myself a little?" I smiled because I knew he was trading his future for a few hours of emotion. And sure enough, when a small crisis hit a broken car, a job issue, he panicked. Not because the problem was too big, but because he had no financial cushion left. That's when I realized the poor spend money to feel better, while the rich spend money to get better. Remember, every expense is a future decision. When you buy something, you don't just pay with money, you pay with hours, worked with energy, with opportunities you could have invested elsewhere. I trained myself to follow a simple rule. Whenever I want to buy something, I wait 24 hours. If I still feel I need it the next day, I buy it. If not, I've just saved both money and regret. You'll be surprised to find that 80% of the things you thought you had to buy right now don't really matter that much. These days, I see many people being manipulated by clever marketing tricks. One-day sale only, buy one, get one free. Last chance, but I tell them, if something truly brings long-term value, it'll still be worth buying tomorrow. The rich understand one truth: money is a loyal servant to those with discipline and a traitor to those driven by emotion. They don't rush. They let reason lead before emotion decides, because they know that every spending decision is a brick you can use it to build freedom or to build a wall that traps you. I want you to try this. Next time you hold something you want, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to the future I dream of or further away from it? That answer will tell you whether you're spending like the rich or the poor. Because the rich don't buy with emotion, they buy with vision. And they know every dollar saved today is a seed for tomorrow. Question for you. If you look back at your last 30 days of spending, what percentage of it actually moved you forward? And for thinking before spending to truly work, you need a deeper foundation, the mindset of the wealthy. Because if your mind still operates from scarcity, you'll always spend like someone who's struggling no matter how much you have. Let's move on to the second principle. Principle number 2, build a wealthy mindset. I used to think that to become rich, I just needed to work harder than everyone else. I worked 12-hour days, took extra jobs, and pushed myself constantly. But after a few years, I faced a harsh truth. Working hard doesn't necessarily make you rich. Because if your mind still holds a poor person's mindset, no matter how much you earn, you'll spend it all, or worse, end up in debt. I remember the early years when I was still struggling to escape financial hardship. I'd hear people complain, "It's impossible to get ahead these days." And then I realized the people saying that were the same ones sitting with me at the cafe, telling the same old stories, complaining about gas prices, housing, and electricity bills. None of them talked about ideas, books, or self-development. That's when I began to understand the environment your mind lives in is the seed of your future. I couldn't afford courses or networking events with successful people, but I had one thing: the public library. I went there every week reading every book I could find about finance, mindset, and discipline. Each book felt like a conversation with successful people I'd never met. I read Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, and anyone who wrote about wealth mindset. And gradually I realized true wealth isn't in your wallet, it's in your mind. The poor ask, "How much can I earn?" The rich ask, "What can I learn?" The poor say, "I don't have opportunities." The rich create opportunities by becoming the kind of person opportunities seek. If you want to have more, become someone of greater value. A wealthy mindset begins with what you feed your mind every day. Just as your body needs nutrition, your mind needs clean food. If you feed it with negativity, comparison, and fear, it becomes weak. But if you feed it with knowledge, discipline, and inspiration, it becomes strong. One day I wrote this line in my journal, "My body eats to live. My mind learns to grow." From that day, I stopped complaining and started learning every single day a page, a lesson, a positive conversation. Gradually, I began to feel different. My thoughts became clearer. And when I thought differently, I began to act differently. Soon after, my results changed too. I want you to remember this. A wealthy mindset doesn't come from how much money you have, but from how you see the world. The rich don't wait for opportunities, they prepare so that when opportunities come, they're ready. Question for you. What are you feeding your mind with every day? Faith or fear? Once you begin building a wealthy mindset, the next thing you must learn is how to respect every dollar you earn. Because mindset is the foundation, but discipline in action is the wall that keeps it strong. Let's move on to principle number 3. Principle number 3, respect every dollar. I once asked a young student of mine, "Do you know why the rich keep getting richer while the poor always seem to lack money?" He answered, "Because they have more opportunities, sir." I smiled and said, "No, it's because they respect every dollar they have while most people treat money as something that comes and goes without much thought." I learned this lesson from a very simple principle. Every dollar you earn must have a specific job. If it doesn't, it will find its own way to leave you. When I was young, I let money slip away like water. Paycheck comes in bills, gifts, dining out, sometimes even things I didn't really need. Then at the end of the month, I'd look at my account and wonder, where did it all go? That's when I realized no dollar ever gets lost, only owners who don't give directions. From that day, I began applying a simple but powerful system. I divided all my income into 4 fixed parts, 170%, for needs, housing, food, transportation, and basic expenses. But I always reminded myself, don't let your needs grow with your income. The poor raise their lifestyle when they earn more. The rich raise their savings, 2 and 10% for savings. This part is sacred. I don't touch it, not for special occasions, not to reward myself. Because saving isn't just about keeping money, it's about training self-respect. 3-1-10% for investments. At first, I invested small amounts, but consistently. I didn't invest to get rich quickly, but to build the habit of making money work for me. $1 invested wisely can become 10 over time. 10%, forgiving this part, taught me more than any book ever could. At first, I thought I'm trying to build wealth. Why should I give it away? But then I realized giving doesn't make you poorer. It makes you richer in mindset and gratitude. At the end of each month, I reviewed these 4 parts like a conversation with myself. Did I let my needs grow too much? Am I saving the right way? What did I learn from my recent investments? And did I give with gratitude or just out of obligation? By practicing this consistently, I noticed a shift. I was no longer earning money, I was managing money. I was no longer working for money, I was making money work for me. Every dollar is a soldier. If you don't assign it a mission, it will desert your army. From that day, I learned to see money as a tool to serve my dreams. And I discovered when you respect every dollar, money starts respecting you. Ask yourself, if you look at your finances today, how many of your dollars are working for you and how many are running away? But respecting money alone isn't enough. Because you can save, you can divide your income wisely, yet if you invest in the wrong place, all your effort can vanish overnight. That's why the rich never put their money where they don't have understanding. Let's move on to principle number 4. Principle number 4, invest in what you understand. I once lost a large sum of money simply because I wanted to get rich fast. A friend invited me to join an exciting opportunity. He said, "Jim, chances like this don't come twice." I didn't understand the business model, nor how the cash flow worked, but I got caught up in the excitement and I invested. The result, I didn't just lose money. I lost confidence in my own judgment. From that experience, I carved this lesson deep into my mind. Never invest in something you don't understand. Because when you don't understand, you're not investing, you're gambling. The rich don't throw money at opportunities they research. They're not drawn to promises of huge profits, they're attracted to clarity. To them, every dollar is a soldier. And before sending that soldier into battle, they make sure they know who the enemy is, whether the land is fertile or barren, what the chances of victory are. When I was young, I invested in things I didn't understand and I lost. But as I matured, I invested in what I understood, and I learned. I started small, observed, took notes, and studied. I didn't seek quick profits, I sought lasting wisdom. I remember a seasoned mentor once told me, Jim, every dollar is a seed, but not every soil will make it grow. Learn about the soil before you plant the seed. I've never forgotten that line. It saved me from countless blind investments later on. The rich aren't afraid of risk, but they respect it. They don't try to eliminate risk, they measure it and make it work for them. They start small, observe results, learn lessons, and then expand. They treat every investment as a class, and every class is a brick building their financial castle. Investing without understanding is like planting in the dark, but when you have the light of knowledge, every dollar can grow into a garden. Ask yourself, are you sending your dollars out into the world without knowing what they're doing for you? But no matter how wisely you invest, life will still throw unexpected storms your way: job loss, accidents, crises. And if you don't have a shield of protection, all your efforts can crumble in days. That's why the rich always build a strong financial fortress. Let's move on to principle number 5. Principle number 5, build an emergency fund. One of the worst feelings in life is when something unexpected happens and you realize you have nothing to fall back on. I've been there. Years ago, my first job was suddenly cut. I wasn't at fault. I wasn't disciplined. The company simply restructured. And after one short meeting, I lost my only source of income. I remember that night. Sitting alone in my empty room, staring at an almost empty bank account. I didn't just lose my job, I lost my peace of mind. I wasn't afraid of being poor. I was afraid of losing my freedom of choice. When you don't have an emergency fund, you can't say no to what's wrong because you're trapped by the fear of tomorrow. From that experience, I learned one of the most foundational principles of the wealthy. Before you build a castle, build a fortress. The rich understand that financial freedom doesn't begin with investing, it begins with security. That's why the very first thing they build is an emergency fund. When I started, I didn't have much. I set a small goal. The first one, $000. Not because that number was big, but because it symbolized control. I saved $10, then $50, then $100. Each time I deposited into that account, I felt stronger not because the money grew, but because I regained power over my life. Then I raised my goal to 6 months of living expenses. That became my fortress, strong walls, solid foundation. With it, I no longer feared emergencies. If I lost my job, I had time to think. If crisis struck, I had the space to choose wisely instead of reacting in panic. I've seen many friends fail not because they were incompetent, but because they had no cushion to stand on. A small shock was enough to wipe out everything they had built. They built castles on sand instead of stone. Emergency money isn't dead money, it's peace of mind resting quietly in your safe. The rich understand, when you have an emergency fund, you make decisions with vision. When you don't, you make decisions with fear. Start small if you must. $1, $10, $100, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you start. Every dollar saved is a brick in the fortress protecting your future. Build it with discipline and guard it with faith. Ask yourself, if your income disappeared tomorrow, how long could you stay calm and secure without panicking? Once you've built a solid foundation to withstand life's storms, the next step is to master the art of controlling desire, because the most dangerous enemy of wealth isn't crisis, it's impatience. Let's move on to principle number 6. Principle number 6, delay gratification. We live in a world that constantly urges you to act now. Buy now, enjoy now, experience now, and pay later. But there's one truth that only truly successful people understand. Success doesn't come from doing everything now, it comes from knowing when to wait. I once had a student named Michael. He worked hard, earned good money, but every month complained about having no savings. I asked Michael, what happens to your money? He said, I don't know, sir, I guess I just spend it. I smiled and said, you don't spend it all, you spend before you think. Then I taught him a simple rule, the 24-hour rule. Whenever you want to buy something that isn't truly necessary, wait 24 hours. Don't rush, just delay it for one day. At first he laughed, waiting 24 hours. What difference will that make? But a few weeks later, Michael came back, his face full of surprise. He said, sir, I realized that more than 70% of the things I wanted to buy, I don't want anymore. I nodded, because that's the power of the pause. The pause between desire and action where discipline is born. When you wait, you let logic rise above emotion. You give yourself time to ask, do I really need this? Will this bring me closer to my financial goals or pull me further away? The rich understand the difference between the free and the indebted isn't income, it's patience. The indebted lie for now. the free live for tomorrow. I once said during a seminar, discipline is the bridge between dreams and achievement, and delayed gratification is the first brick of that bridge. I know waiting isn't easy. It goes against human instinct. But every time you resist an impulsive purchase, you're building mental muscle stronger than any gym workout. One day you'll realize every time you say no to something meaningless, you're saying yes to your own freedom. A person who can't master their desires will forever be a slave to circumstance. Question for you. The last time you delayed a spending impulse, did you feel stronger? When you've learned to control your emotions and master your desires, the next step is to simplify your entire financial system. Because often it's not a lack of money that drains you, it's a lack of clarity. Let's move on to principle number 7. Principle number 7, simplify your finances. There was a time in my life when just thinking about managing money made me tired. Bank accounts in several places, 4 or 5 credit cards, bills arriving on different days of the month. Every time I looked at it, it felt like a tangled spider web. And the strange thing was, the more complex it became, the more control I lost. Then one day I asked myself a very simple question. Why am I turning my finances into a maze when the goal is freedom? From that moment, I started cleaning up my financial system like tidying up a room that hadn't been swept in years. I closed unnecessary accounts. I consolidated my spending in one place. I chose one bank, one tool, and one clear process. And something amazing happened. I felt lighter. Not because I had more money, but because I could finally see where I was. The rich understand one simple truth: clarity is the first step to power. They don't keep 10 accounts just to feel more important. They maintain one streamlined system to track, adjust, and make quick decisions. They know where every dollar goes, why it goes, and when it should return. I once met a man named Robert, a quiet millionaire. He didn't drive a luxury car or wear an expensive watch, but he carried a small notebook where he meticulously recorded every income and expense. I asked him, "Why do you do this? When you could hire a whole finance team," he smiled and said, "Because I don't want my money living in the dark." That answer left me silent. Because it's true, money only becomes a tool when it lives in the light of understanding. If you let it hide in a mess of cards, debts, and accounts, it will start controlling you instead of the other way around. I want you to try this sometime this week. Sit down and open your financial list. Close accounts you don't use. Combine duplicate expenses. Set fixed payment dates. And write everything down on a single page so you can see the full picture. When you simplify your financial system, you don't just make it easier to manage, you unlock energy flow. You'll think clearer, decide faster, and act with greater confidence. The rich aren't afraid of simplicity. They understand that wealth doesn't come from complexity. It comes from clarity in every small choice. Ask yourself, how many things in your finances today exhaust you simply because they're too complicated? Once you've built a clear, simple financial system, when you've learned to control your money instead of letting it control you, it's time to learn a deeper lesson. Wealth isn't just a number in your bank account, it's the quality of your life. Let's move on to principle number 8. Principle number 8, balance wealth and life. Once had a friend, a successful entrepreneur admired by everyone. He had everything most people dream of: his own company, a beautiful home, a luxury car, and prestige. But one day I met him in a hospital. He was sitting alone, exhausted, his face pale and worn. I asked what happened. He replied quietly, "Jim, I built an empire, but I lost myself." That sentence left me speechless, because I realized so many people on the journey to wealth sacrifice what can never be bought back: health, family, and peace of mind. I've met hundreds of people like him. They work day and night, earn more money than ever, but live in stress, insomnia, and loneliness. They can buy anything, but they can't buy a warm dinner with loved ones or a peaceful night's sleep without worry. And I learned something powerful. Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. If you let money control your life, you lose the very meaning of earning it. The truly rich understand that wealth isn't measured only by possessions, but by wholeness. They earn money without losing their health. They work hard, but still make time for the people they love. They know success has no value if it costs you your soul. I once met a millionaire who told me, "Jim, I have everything except peace." And I replied, "If you lack peace, then you're not truly rich." True wealth is waking up with energy, working with joy, and going to bed with gratitude. It's the balance between doing, having, and being. Working to create value. Having enough to live freely. And being a whole, kind, loving person with purpose. I want you to remember this: no one wins if they lose themselves. Earn money, but don't forget to live. Work, but don't forget to rest. Chase your dreams, but don't abandon those who love you. Ask yourself, If you could double your wealth today but had to sacrifice your health or family, would you do it? And once you've found the balance between wealth and life, the next step of the truly rich isn't to hoard, but to share. Because the flow of money grows stronger only when it circulates. Let's move on to principle number 9. Principle number 9, the power of generosity. I used to believe when I'm rich, I'll start giving. But then I realized it's giving itself that makes you rich. Years ago, when I was still a young man with a nearly empty wallet, I heard a mentor say, "Jim, if you can't give when you have little, you'll never give when you have much." I didn't believe it, but then I tried. I started small, a few dollars, to help a friend in need, a shared meal with someone homeless, a book gifted to a student searching for direction. Strangely enough, I didn't feel any loss. I felt richer in heart and spirit and in my connection to life itself. That's when I began to understand money is like water. When it flows, it stays clear. When it stops, it turns murky. The rich understand this deeply. They give not because they have excess, but because they know the flow continues only when they let it move. They give to create space, and that space is filled by the universe with new opportunities. I've seen many of my students change completely through the simple act of conscious giving. One young man, always complaining that he never had enough, I advised him to start sharing 5% of his income with something meaningful. A few months later, he came back and said, "I don't know why, but everything seems to go more smoothly now." I smiled and said, "It's not magic. When you give, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance, and that mindset becomes a magnet for good things." Giving isn't just a financial act, it's a way of living. Give thanks, kindness, knowledge, smiles, time, things that don't diminish but multiply. The truly wealthy don't ask, "What do I get from giving?" They ask, "Who do I become when I share more?" Because they know the greatest wealth isn't in your wallet, it's in a heart that knows how to give. You never become poorer by giving. Each time you open your heart, you expand your own limits. Question for you. What can you share today, no matter how small, to make the world around you just a little better? And when you've learned the art of giving, you'll realize that true wealth isn't just material, it's built on the right relationships. The rich don't just invest in markets, they invest in people. Let's move on to principle number 10. Principle number 10, network like the wealthy. I once said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I believe that's one of the simplest, yet most powerful formulas for wealth ever discovered. When I was young, I spent time with people who complained a lot. They said things like, "Life is unfair. Opportunities are only for the lucky. The rich are all dishonest." And the strange thing is, when you stay in that environment long enough, you start to believe it too. I was once like that until I met my first mentor. He didn't teach me how to make money. He taught me how to think like the wealthy. He said, "Jim, if you want to change your results, change your circle. Mindsets don't spread through blood, they spread through environment." I began to observe successful people spend time with those who learn, share, and lift each other up. They don't talk about people, they talk about ideas. They don't complain about circumstances, they create new ones. And I realized relationships are assets. From that moment, I made a rule for myself. Each year, I'll intentionally connect with at least 3 people who challenge me to grow. Not to take advantage, but to learn. Not to ask for opportunities, but to become the kind of person opportunities seek. I remember a friend once asked me, "Jim, how do you find such valuable relationships?" I said, "By becoming a valuable relationship for others first." The rich don't seek relationships to get help. They build relationships to grow together. They understand that every conversation, every meal, every connection can be a seed for the future. Good relationships don't just open new doors, they open better versions of yourself. Take a look at your circle today. Who inspires you to grow, who pushes you to be more disciplined, more curious, more valuable? If the answer isn't many, perhaps it's time to change the environment you breathe in. Question for you. If you are the average of the 5 people closest to you, who are you becoming today? And once you've built the right relationships, the next thing the wealthy always do is pause to reflect, realign, and refine themselves every week. Because if you never look back, you'll end up repeating the same mistakes. Let's move on to principle number 11. Principle number 11, review and reflect weekly. I once had a very hardworking student. He worked every day, set clear goals, and carefully wrote down everything he needed to do. But after a while, he came to me looking discouraged. "Sir, I'm doing so much, but I don't feel like I'm improving." I asked, "Do you review your week?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" I replied. "If you don't look back, you're just busy, not growing." The wealthy have a habit most people overlook. They reflect and review regularly, not just their work, but also themselves, their thoughts, their emotions, their mindset. They treat each week like a mirror. Every Sunday night they stand before that mirror and ask, what did I do well this week? Am I living in alignment with my values? What can I do differently to improve? I began doing the same. Every week I set aside 1 hour for what I call a meeting of one. No one else, just me and my notebook. I write down 3 things I did well, 2 things I need to improve, and 1 lesson I learned. And that habit has changed my life more than any book or seminar ever could. Because reflection turns experience into wisdom. Not everyone who lives through much becomes wise, only those who take time to look back and learn from their own journey. A week unreviewed is a week unlived. The wealthy understand that if you don't evaluate, you can't adjust. And if you don't adjust, you'll repeat the same mistakes just in new forms. I often tell my students growth doesn't happen in the noise, but in the quiet moments when you face yourself honestly. Try setting aside 1 hour each week to reflect on your journey, not to judge, but to understand. Not to criticize, but to grow, because that's the only way to move forward without losing your direction. Question for you. What did you learn about yourself this past week, or did you simply pass through it? And once you've learned to look back, you'll realize something even more important. Every journey only becomes meaningful when you finish it with discipline and persistence. Because wealth doesn't come from how brilliantly you start, but from how steadfastly you finish. Let's move on to principle number 12. Principle number 12, finish strong. I often tell my students anyone can start, but only the disciplined can finish. The world is full of people who begin with passion, but lacks those who finish with persistence. People are enthusiastic at the start, but tired midway and disappear before seeing results. I once met a young man named David. He started his business with burning passion. He worked late nights, studied hard, and promised me he would never give up. But 6 months later, I got the news David shut down his company, saying I lost my motivation. I called him and asked David, did you lose your motivation or your discipline? He fell silent because he knew motivation helps you start, but discipline helps you finish. Discipline isn't something grand. It's the small actions you repeat every day, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is sitting down to work even when you're tired. It's reading 1 more page even when it's late. It's saving a small amount even when everyone around you is spending freely. Discipline won't make you perfect in a day, but it will make you unbreakable for a lifetime. I often compare discipline to a rope made of small threads. Each day you do the right thing, the rope grows stronger. And one day it's strong enough to pull you through any storm. The rich understand that success isn't in how you begin, it's in how you finish. Because finishing strong is the mark of a resilient person. When others quit, you keep going. When everything seems to fall apart, you still trust your values. And when results finally come, you're not surprised because you've prepared for them all along. Remember this, don't just start loudly. Finish quietly and let your results make the noise. Ask yourself, is there something you started with passion but are now thinking of quitting? Could today be the day you decide to finish it? And when you've learned to think before you spend to build a wealthy mindset, to respect every dollar, to invest wisely, to protect yourself with discipline and generosity, then you already have everything you need to build true financial freedom. Stay with me until the end, where I'll share the most important message of this entire journey, a truth that once understood will forever change how you see money. A lesson from the heart. Looking back on my own journey, I realized something profound. Wealth isn't a destination. It's the process of who you become along the way. I was once poor. I made mistakes. I spent foolishly trying to prove something. But then I learned money doesn't change you. It magnifies who you already are. If you lack discipline, money will make you lazier. If you're responsible, money will give you the power to create good. And that's why your goal isn't just to earn more, it's to become worthy of what you earn. You see, the 12 principles we've just walked through aren't just financial strategies. They're life principles. Because if you practice them long enough, they won't just grow your bank account, they'll grow your character. When you learn to think before spending, you learn awareness. When you respect money, you learn gratitude. When you invest wisely, you learn wisdom. When you give, you learn love. And when you finish strong, you learn discipline, the foundation of all success. I want you to remember this. True wealth isn't in your pocket. It's in your mindset, your habits, and a heart that knows how to give. If you choose just one small thing to start today, let it be thinking before every financial action. Because that awareness, small as it seems, is the first step toward freedom, peace, and true value. Remember, you don't need to change the world overnight. Just change one decision each day. And one day when you look back, you'll realize those small decisions created a great life. If these principles have touched you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And I want to ask you, of the 12 principles we discussed today, which one will you apply first? Leave your answer in the comments, I'd love to know. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. Jim Rohn. See you in the next video from Jim Rohn Treasures. Keep walking your path to becoming the wealthiest and strongest version of yourself.